He is Jim Owczarski, Bucks beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He's going to Vegas, baby. I know the Bucks are headed there too, but the media is ME. Begins with ME. It's about me and you, Jim, are going to go. Which casinos? What's on the agenda once you fly into Las Vegas now that the Milwaukee Bucks are headed to the NBA Cup semifinals?
Well, aside from the very lengthy docket of times and places the NBA has already sent us, JR, yeah, I don't have the kind of funds to go hang out in Vegas really enjoy Vegas for a week.
Yeah.
But there's no disrespect to JS and everything, but
well, it's the field. It's not the employer. It's the field.
Yeah,
people like us do not have the money to enjoy Vegas for a week.
Not really. I don't have the bag needed to go get more bags.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look, if the Bucks advance and are there till Tuesday, it's nice weather. I don't know if it's nice enough to sit by a pool, but it might be nice enough to stick a peg in the ground and hit a golf ball or two.
Oh, I see. I see what's happening here. That makes perfect sense. Perhaps you can embed yourself with the Milwaukee Bucks traveling party as they go casino hopping or Cirque du Soleil or whatever it is people do when they actually have money. The Milwaukee Bucks are looking for a little money. They're looking for that $500K, that sweet $500K. That would come with winning this whole thing. They defeat Orlando in an ugly but I guess ultimately satisfying win on Tuesday night at Pfizer Forum. They've won 8 of their last 10. The 2 losses coming in back-to-back games against the Hawks, which was kind of an understandable back-to-back 7-game winning streak ender. And then the Celtics, of course, the top team in the East, probably not the top team in the East, but maybe the top team in the East, maybe the top team in basketball. And that was close. It was 111-105. They've won a couple ugly games since then. So where I actually want to start, and it does connect to this game against Orlando, is something you wrote for jsonline.com that posted on Wednesday morning about Damian Lillard specifically. Lillard hit a huge 3-point shot to tie the game against Orlando late. He then had, I believe, the go-ahead basket on a drive to the hoop. So he played a big role, as you might expect. Wasn't his best game. Threw the ball away an awful lot. Did not score a ton until the end. You're not seeing these explosive 40, 50-point performances from him paired with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And part of that is just a straight-up reinvention. He's had to learn. I don't want to say it's all him. There's some learning from others too, from Giannis as well. But he's had to change a little bit of how he plays, and I think we are seeing the dividends of that. So give a little bit of a rundown of what you wrote about, what you have seen from Damian Lillard, and how he's been able to contribute in the ways he's contributed, even without those eye-popping point totals.
Yeah, JR, it's really interesting. So, I mean, this kind of goes back to last year when he arrived, and this is going to be the greatest pairing of stars ever, right? Point guard, big man. I think Pat Connaughton said in the story, people want to see Giannis go dunk, Dame go shoot, but it's not that easy. And what struck me, JR, this goes back to summer in Portland, when I spent some time with Damian, and he had said a couple times, can we swear on this podcast? I don't know, but the quote was,
I got bleeps, baby. I got bleeps.
He said, I'm playing an MVP. What does this look like with him? And it sounds like such a simple statement, but it's a realization that Damian Lillard understands Giannis is better than him, is the best player on the team, is the engine. And it sounds easy to say. Dame had said it, like, oh, Giannis is better than me. But in practice, like JR, when they write the history of the NBA, Damian Lillard is one of the chapters with Steph Curry and James Harden in what the game is now, right? With the 3-point shooting and the guards doing what they're doing. And so he's going to the Hall of Fame as that player, and then had to realize he couldn't be that guy anymore. And the mission of this was to show that's just not an easy thing to do. We talk about role changes and role players all the time. And I think what about a Hall of Famer changing a role, right? And so he really kind of walks through this sort of mental process and just admits how hard that is to do. But the end goal is to have a chance to win a title. And he's like, if the sacrifice is to ask out of Portland, right, and to give that up, like, why not go all the way? Why not buy all the way in? Brooke Lopez actually called it a wild ask to do that. And, like, think about Brooke. Like, Brooke was on a much lower level as sort of the focal point of the Nets offense, a post player. And then all of a sudden, he is no longer that. And he said, he pointed to the court. He's like, no, Brooke, stand over there. And so he could kind of relate. And then, like, Pat Connaughton, Gary Trent Jr., who played with Dame in Portland and obviously now here in Milwaukee, saying, like, just seeing the difference in Damian to do that. And it's going a long way in the locker room, JR, which is no small thing either. And so, yeah, it's really interesting. And there'll be more on this. I've got some more stuff that couldn't quite get all in the paper, but check it out, jsonline.com. It's really sort of this really look inside of an all-time great who is trying to remain that. The Bucks need that, but it has to be different. And the process of figuring out what that different is, how it can work, and now looping it back to your intro there, he runs up, sets a screen for Giannis, slips out. Giannis hits him the ball on the switch. He's got the bigger guy. He's able to do this, like, incredible, like, 5-foot step back.
Yeah, I don't know how
he hit a 3-pointer. And
magic.
Did he score 30 points? No. But I tell you, he was pretty happy with a double-double again, right? Or close to it. And so, and the Bucks win the game. So, yeah, it's been really interesting over this last year plus, and it's still not, like, all the way there because Khris just came back. But it's really an insight, JR, I think, into how it's getting there and the why why it may work down the line.
And I don't want to imply that Lillard isn't scoring. I mean, he's 25.8 points per game. Right. That's more than his career average a little bit. It's more than he was averaging last year. He's shooting, several 20 percentage points better from 3-point range. Or I'm saying that wrong. It's from 35% to 37%, 2 percentage points better, but still that's obviously significant. So he's having a good run too. Those step backs are fun, man. I mean, that's what he did in Portland too. But just like I'm dribbling in, no, I'm like flashing somehow backwards to the 3-point line to make those big shots. You said a lot that I wanted to go further on, but I guess, like, I'm curious how Giannis has maybe changed his game, because Giannis is posting numbers that are bigger than ever before. And I don't know if that's purely an effect of he and Dame are finally completely on the same page and Dame is creating opportunities for him, or if Giannis is just, I mean, there were times against Orlando, he just took the ball and was like, I'm going to score now. It didn't matter who was on him. It didn't matter where he was on the floor. It seems like he can do whatever he wants. And yet he's also adding this mid-range game where he's shooting more. And that maybe wasn't like at its peak against Orlando, but he has really ramped that up as well. What are you seeing from Giannis that he has adjusted to make this work with Lillard as well?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's how do I say this? It's him understanding that Dame is changing, accepting that, and then also understanding that at times you've got to let that guy be that guy. Like, Giannis said early last year, we got to have Dame be Dame, and we've got to, if I got to set 50 screens a game, I'll set 50 screens. Like, I was always dubious about that, right? Mm-hmm. It was a hyperbolic number, but I think we could look back at last year, JR, and say Giannis didn't really set great screens. It's not like, I mean, I get it. He gets hit a lot. Like, it's something that we saw him do at an elite level in the finals for Khris, but like over a course of 100 games, like I think we can say Giannis does set better screens especially of late, right? His angling of his body there to get Dame to certain spots, understanding that Dame has to bring the ball up sometimes. Now, these are all like non-scoring things, but they're the ball out of hand. It's giving up his body again to take contact from a big or a small. And also, yes, he's scoring at the best rate of his career, but this all goes back to even what Dame said in camp, which was like, we're here for Giannis to dominate. Like, we need that. Our job is to make it easier for him to do that. So he's not falling to the floor and going through 4 people. And I think we are seeing that at times. Yeah, Giannis puts his head down and he's going to do the thing. But it doesn't look like that all the time. We're seeing a little more free running Giannis, right? Because look, when he sets a real screen, now all of a sudden he's running unencumbered with the ball, right? And it just changes kind of everything. So I would say that's where Giannis has changed the most. I mean, he's passed, over the years, JR, we've written about it, we've talked about it. I don't know if he's passing more. Maybe he is. I haven't looked at like those type of advanced metrics, but I would say those are probably the biggest changes, is understanding Damian needs time at times, right? And really like what setting him up for success looks like. And that does mean giving up your body a little bit to set screens above the 3-point line. It's just a different space to be for him.
The Bucks right now, they're still digging out a little bit from the early part of the season, but they're 13-11. That's tied with Miami for the number 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. Just a couple games behind the Knicks and the Magic for a top 3 spot. Things are going, I'd say, okay. They're still certainly not out of the woods per se, but things have found a groove. Khris Middleton is back. We talked about that on the our last conversation, that he, we weren't sure how easily he would fit back in. And we have not seen the scoring from him. I don't think he had any points against Orlando, but he handed out 8, 9 assists by the end of the day. A lot of that to Giannis. So he is still figuring it out a little bit, but also contributing in a really high level in the minutes that he is being given. What are you seeing from Khris Middleton? What's what's your thought process in terms of how you expect the Bucks to use him going forward?
Yeah, 8 assists, no points. He took 2 shots in 20 minutes, right?
Wow.
And we kind of touched on this a couple of times, JR, and like the waiting for Khris. But now we can like start to get into it. And it was fair to me, the big 3 together under Doc Rivers was the question for me of this season, because Doc was hired in January. Khris got hurt a couple games into that. He comes back and Giannis gets hurt. I think Dame missed a couple games in there. Then, of course, we know the playoffs. They had played 7 full games together under Rivers. Now, I'm not discounting the 40 that they played under Adrian Griffin, but I think we all know at this point, like, that was just them playing basketball as opposed to under a coach with some direction and what that coach wants these guys to do, right? So I was curious. Like, Khris is a prideful guy. He's a 3-time All-Star. He's an Olympian. 20-point a game scorer. Second man on a championship team. Like, he has every right to want to play, to shoot, get his shots, right? Like, sorry about that, JR.
That's very delightful.
You know what's funny is, I'm going to quick aside. When you break your phone, and like, I'm going to show this. When you like break this,
your phone is wow.
Yeah.
So that's not a screen issue. That is like your phone is like has a wound in it.
And so like when that happens, the only thing that works is the alarm.
And you can't turn it off.
You cannot turn it off. There's no sound. There's no like thing to do.
What did you do? Did you drop it off of the Empire State Building? How did you get that?
So we fell, and it just was in the back pocket and just cushioned the blow.
Oh, I mean, are you okay?
Oh, of course. Did you see the curvature there?
Yeah, it's completely.
So no, I'm fine. The thing is like, I feel the end result must be a total annihilation of this device, but I can't until like I make sure all the stuff is like downloaded the right way. I mean, I know someone's going to see this like, oh, the cloud, but like, it's not like all back yet. So, so I apologize in advance. But anyway, but like the Khris thing, so he has every right to want to shoot shots. And JR, we saw that last year, right? Where like they would play together and then they would each all take their turns. And then the Bucks would fall down by 8 or 9 or lose, whatever. And so Giannis and Dame aren't doing that as much. Remember earlier in the year, I think we did see those two guys try to like, my turn, your turn, but there is ball movement. They are passing the ball, like double doubles like crazy for Dame. Giannis is flirting with double doubles or triple doubles. So Khris, I think, coming in has just like embraced that right away. I mean, I want to say 19 assists in 3 games. And he's immediately in that flow. And his shots haven't fallen. But that'll happen eventually. So I think it's that has to be such a huge relief for Doc Rivers to see that the third guy is walking in the door, immediately embracing the way they've been playing and not really, and feeling like, well, I'll get mine as it happens. I'll make these shots. Like Khris was 20-point a game scorer with Giannis, right? Yeah. Right. JR. Maybe now he's a 16 and 7 guy. And then at times he'll have a 25-point game or 30-point, like you'll get your one, just like Dame is now a 25-point a game guy. But his assists are way up. So I think that's really encouraging to me how Khris is integrated in just a short time with what they've been doing.
Explain to me how Andre Jackson Jr. works. Now, this is something that maybe I could probably figure out, but I just want to, he's 5th on the team in starts. He started 15 games this year, but he's like 9th on the team in minutes, depending on if we're already gauging Khris Middleton's minute count. He gives him a lot of good energy early. He made it, makes threes occasionally, big on defense. And then he's just kind of disappears from the game. What is it that they're trying to do with Andre Jackson Jr.? Like, why is it that he is seen as someone who is, right out of the gate, somebody that they want on the floor, but then they kind of phase him out? Like, what do you think the process is here?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly the defensive element early. I think Doc Rivers wants to set that tone. And how long that first stretch of Andre starting lasts. I mean, 8 minutes against the Magic, which you would think is a team he would really match up well with because they don't have a lot of great outside shooters. They're physical. They're big. Like, that's Andre Jackson Jr.
And yet AJ Green got all those minutes.
Right. So, but yet there was Andre and AJ in the final seconds of the game for defensive purposes, right? With Dame on the bench, which that's a whole other thing that we haven't addressed at all. Like, Doc has pulled Dame late in games defensively and going offense, defense, and not a peep out of Damian Lillard, right?
No, it's working. Like, that's
so I think Andre, for me, is a tone setter. I think it wouldn't shock me, JR, if he starts alongside Dame the rest of the season. But Gary Trent Jr. getting 25 minutes or AJ Green getting 18. Like, I think he's a matchup guy who starts, and then it's just to see how it goes, right? Is it working offensively? I think that's the main thing, JR. Like the Magic, like the Bucks were turning it over so much in that game. It was such a slog. Clearly, offense was going to be a problem, and Andre just isn't there yet. Like, I mean, he did score 5 points. 2 of 4 in 8 minutes, had a couple rebounds. Like, that part of his game is growing and getting better. But I think just in those moments, Doc is just going to move. But it wouldn't shock me if he starts the rest of the way, but is actually like a matchup guy. And you see Gary Trent and AJ Green and subbing in for him. And that's where the fluctuation of minutes will come.
I took my children to their first NBA basketball game. This was the one against Orlando, and I found myself sitting there up in section 215 up in the rafters somewhere where, after Orlando got its 50th offensive rebound somewhere in there. I'm like, why is Andre Jackson not in this game? I don't understand. But
did you explain to them that this is what basketball looked like in the 90s?
I did not. Well, although the court with the light blue, that's kind of a 90s thing that they probably interpreted that on their own. No, I just kept saying, this is ugly basketball. This is ugly basketball. They loved it. They didn't care. They got to see Giannis throw down some dunks, late drama, Damian Lillard three-pointers that are big. What else would you ask for if you're a young Bucks fan? And they got a free t-shirt too. That was big. That was a big moment for my daughter. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Jim, anything else that you're thinking about here before I send you away?
I'm interested in this Vegas thing, JR. Like the Bucks are the only team that's back for a second straight year. I think it's interesting that there's a little bit of like the leadership. Dame and Giannis and Khris are like, last year kind of sucked. Going there for several reasons. Some of it was schedule, which the league has fixed. Some of it, a lot of it was the result. Obviously, there's a whole subtext here of Doc Rivers was calling that game, and then Griff was there, and there was consulting, and suddenly Doc's like, we're a year away like from that whole thing, which whatever.
That's strange.
But if the Bucks, like as we record this, we don't know if the Bucks are playing the Knicks or Hawks. Either way, each of those teams have embarrassed the Bucks already this year. They didn't feel great about their Vegas experience. So if they were to go there on a neutral court, beat another playoff team currently, and then you're sitting there against Oklahoma City or Golden State. Oklahoma City would be fascinating because clearly the best team in the league, the favorite in the West. Yeah, the Bucks are going to play them, sure, at some point in the regular season, but we don't know the schedule, who will be off, who will be available. Like, other than Chet Holmgren being out, which is a big miss for the Thunder. What a measuring stick on a stage that the league is going to spotlight, that the Bucks do want to win. A little tease for everybody. Talk to Bobby Portis. He's like, if we win, I want the thing. Raise the banner, do a ceremony. He's like, I want all that. We're playing for a trophy. I want that whole thing. And so these guys are like into it in that way, especially now that they're there. So that would be, if I'm going to be there for 7 days, I guess JR would say, like, do the thing, make it interesting, have the best matchups, and it's there's the alarm, JR.
Your broken phone is telling us we're wrapping it up.
And so it's just like I think that's what I'm looking forward to the most. So that's going ahead to plug JS Online, JR. Some fun stuff. Been sitting on this for a while. The Khris Giannis pair and the interesting chemistry that they've had over the years, specifically Khris to Giannis on the lobs. We've been sitting on the can. Khris got hurt, and then Giannis got hurt, and it just, it's a Bill Schultz special. Yeah. He does a lot of our great video work and editing, so that's coming this week. Lori Nichols writing a couple columns, and obviously everything and anything all Cup related at jsonline.com.
I love that. All I ask is that the banner that they hang be the same color scheme as that blue court.
That would be something.
Yeah. I want loud. I want weird. I want it to stand out from everything else that's in that building because it's different.
Why not? I mean, it's if they're really embracing the blue, I guess if the arena's around, like we're around 100 years, you got all the green and then this weird blue one, but that might make it stand out a little more.
If they win it after going 2 years in a row, they're unquestionably going like 0-4 or 2-2, and they are not going back to Vegas next year. They will be moving on. But it's still cool. It's still developing, I think, as a concept in terms of how we should feel about it. But the Bucks feel good about it, and so I'm sure people will be into it. I remember being really into that game against the Pacers last year. In the semifinals, it was something. It was different. I don't know what it was, but it was different. And I'm sure if they get to the final, it'll be a cool thing. He is Jim Owczarski, Bucks beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Find everything he has at jsonline.com. Thanks for tuning in. My name's JR Radcliffe. We'll talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye.